All right, here we go. In this lesson, we're going to plug in the bass and turn on the amp. I'll tell you about some common controls in the amplifiers and what criteria I use to shop for bass amps. Let's get plugged in. Bass, amp, and cable. These are the minimum requirements to make any sort of meaningful sound with your instrument. The cable is called a 1/4-inch guitar cable, which just refers to the size of the plug. The plug is exactly the same on both sides, so it doesn't matter which end of the plug goes where. One end goes into the output jack on your bass, the other end goes into the amp, into a jack that's probably marked input. If you have any effects or pedals you are running through, you can plug your bass into those first, then plug those into the amp. Pretty simple. When you plug in your bass, you want to make sure the amp is off. If your amp is turned on and your volume control on your amp is up even a little bit, you will hear a loud, unpleasant pop when you plug your bass in. I don't believe this actually does any real damage to the amp. At the very least, it's unpleasant, so let's just try to avoid that. You can plug your bass in first if you want to, and then plug the other side of the cable into the amp. This will avoid the pop, but it's probably best just to plug everything in and then turn the amp on. Any bass amp you use for the first time, you want to start with the volume control all the way down and then bring it up slowly. Some bass amps can be very powerful, so easy does it. Most of the amps that I've used for gigging, I generally didn't need to bring the volume past like 2.5 or 3 out of a total of 10, so it doesn't take very much sometimes. But before you even bring the volume up, I want you to look for a button or a switch. Some very small bass amps might not have this, but most of them do. Unfortunately, how this switch will be labeled is not standardized. It could say active passive, could say -15 dB or -10 dB, could say pad, or could be something else. What this mystery switch does is to cut the volume at the input before it goes to the amp. If you have an active bass, it automatically has a higher output, and you want to counter this by pushing this button. If you have a passive bass, one without a battery, then you don't want this button depressed. You want the full volume of the amp available to you. But if you have that active instrument, the battery, it's probably a little bit too much for the amplifier, so we want to press that button, take that volume down just a little bit. Most amps will also come with a headphone jack, either 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch. The cool thing is that when you plug into the headphones, it should turn your speaker off. Because, I mean, who wants to listen through headphones and a speaker at the same time? It doesn't make any sense. This is a fantastic option if you have housemates or neighbors that can hear you playing. You might be shy about someone listening to you in your learning process, that's okay. Or you may just want to stay quiet as a courtesy to those around you. Either way, it's nice to have the headphone option available. Just like the controls on various basses are different, the controls on different amps will also vary. Pretty much every amp will have volume, of course, and EQ controls, also very common. But there's a huge range of other controls that you are likely to see as well. If you don't already know, EQ, which stands for equalization, simply boosts or cuts your volume, but only in certain frequencies, usually low, mid, and high. My default setting for EQ is everything in the middle. This is usually 12 o'clock on the dial of the controls. If the numbers on your EQ run from 1 to 10, then set your EQ to 5. If they go from a negative number to a positive number, say from -10 to +10, then set it at 0. Sometimes they don't have any numbers at all. Basically, just put your EQ in the middle of whatever the range of possibilities are. I do this for all of my EQ settings. I personally generally don't color my sound at the amp. We can think of EQ as coloring or affecting the sound, right? I do that at the bass or through the pedals. It's not wrong to EQ your amp, but that's just my preference. Sometimes though, if I'm playing with the group and I can't quite hear myself, rather than boosting my volume, I just boost the bass EQ a little bit. You can do this on board if you have an active bass, or you can do it on your amp. This is a great way to boost your sound without boosting all of it, which the volume knob does. This can lead to sound battles because if you're boosting all of your frequencies, then now you're cutting out the guitar player, who then in turn needs to boost their volume, and now you can't hear yourself, and so now you need to boost your volume, and as you can see, it's a vicious upward cycle in this case. So consider your bass EQ like an extra secret volume control. It's not uncommon to have EQ buttons as well. These boost or cut specific frequencies. My big Ampeg rig has an ultra high button, an ultra low button, and a high frequency mute. You might also see things like a mid-range cut or a mid-range boost. I don't have a default recommendation for these types of buttons. Just experiment and go with what you like. The last piece I want to address here is the aux in. This stands for auxiliary. It's a really nice option for plugging in some additional audio, such as a drum machine or some other kind of player. This setup is a little bit antiquated because it uses a cable, which really nobody uses anymore, right? I mean, who uses cables? Seriously. So some amps now have a Bluetooth option, which you can use to connect a phone and play audio through that. The audio in may or may not have a volume control with it. So if it doesn't, you will need to just adjust the volume at the source, on your phone in this case. Like I said, there's a ton of other stuff that you may or may not see on your amp, but this should be enough to get you up and running in most situations. If you want to learn more about your amp, read the manual or jump on YouTube and enjoy tinkering. I'm going to give you 3 distinct priorities to use when shopping for an amp. Of course, your priorities might be different, but if you don't know where to start, this will help you to focus on what's important when making your selection, whether you are buying an amp for the first time or just want to get something different. The first and most basic set of criteria is power and price. These are highly correlated. Generally speaking, the more power you have, the better, right? It gives you better tone and the ability to be heard. Yay! But it's not always necessary to have more power, and more power does come with a higher price. More powerful amps also tend to take up more space. So start by looking for the most powerful amp that you can afford and that will fit in your practice space. Having said that, you don't necessarily want to buy more amp than you need. The power of your bass amp will be expressed in watts. More watts equals more power. So how many watts do you need? If you aren't playing with anybody, then you might not need very much. I have a little 25 watt orange amp that does just fine for practicing or for acoustic jams. But if you do plan on playing with other people, then you may need to be loud, at least loud enough to overpower whatever sound you are dealing with. The general rule is that you want your bass amp to be double the watts of the guitar amp for whatever the guitar player is using. So if your guitar player plays through a 100 watt amp, you want at least 200 watts in your bass amp. Bass just needs more power to get the sound that you need to drive that speaker and to get those low notes. And if you are short on power, then you just won't be heard. The second criteria is to shop by brand. This can be difficult if you don't know what you're looking for and if you don't have any recommendations. So I'm going to give you some recommendations. I like the brands Orange and Ampeg. That's just my preference. When I shop for bass amps, I generally like a clean, smooth bass sound. If I want to color that sound, I will use pedals, a choice of bass, choice of strings, onboard controls, so on and so forth. I don't like a bass amp that has a really unique flavor to it. I think of Ampeg and Orange as just delivering great, clean, pure bass sound. That's just my opinion. That's what my ears like. The best thing you can do is to go play somewhere. Let your ears tell you what they like. I know that there are certain brands I won't even look at because I just don't like the sound. So try some different options and let your ears decide. And the last thing on my list of criteria is controls. Do you need an aux input? Is that important to you? Are you an EQ hound and you absolutely require that 12-band graphic EQ? If there's something that you think you need, then go after it. Really, I don't think that the controls are that important, unless there's a feature that you just can't live without. Don't buy a bass amp just because it has more knobs and switches that you may or may not ever use. More isn't always better. Bass amps are incredibly important to our overall tone and ability to be heard in the band. But if you don't have an amp yet and you're feeling overwhelmed by your choices, just get something small and simple to start with. It's probably all you need right now, and you can always gear up again later on if you need something different. I'm looking forward to hearing about what you select, and I will see you in the next lesson. Audio such as a drum machine, blah, 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 blah.